Hey, sorry, I'm a little bit. Oh my gosh, I haven't even sorted any of it out. My apologies. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I had to help me geriatric pooch. Had to get him up and out, and he was crying because he'd got himself stuck. So I literally just about to start, and I had to run downstairs. But it's all right. Matt's home now, so Matt can save him if he falls over again. It's awful. It's awful because he's old. Bless him. Love him. Okay, so after last week's rather long session, I'm hoping it should be a shorter session tonight anyway. But I need to try and make sure I keep it always under 2.5 hours is enough for you guys hearing me chatting. So today we are going to go through. So we're going to go through the Pomp and Fanfare. That's the whole Trump visit. Mangled History. We are going to talk about the whole Palestinian state recognition, which I absolutely. Let me do that. Otherwise, that's going to stress you out. Seeing that mirror shining. There you go. Or stress me out. Wondering what it is. So, because obviously the UK, Australia and Canada, have recognised Palestine. Our new secret weapon. So this is the Hillsborough Law. And spoiler alert, I don't think it is. I think it's going to make everything harder. And then beyond dopamine. So I will make sure we do the happiness thing right at the end tonight. I'm not going to veer off in the middle. We will do it as planned, as best as possible. You know me. So let's start. I don't think we're going to stop. I think I did it the wrong way around. So first up is Mangled History. It was because of the way I kind of I just go off on tangents. Okay, so first up is Australia and Canada and the UK recognising Palestine. So that happened yesterday on a Sunday, and it happened the day before Jewish New Year. Right, so let's just kind of put that into perspective. So yesterday we were saying, Palestine deserves to have its own state, bearing in mind that we've tried that multiple times, and we'll talk about it in a second. And today it's the Jewish New Year. So I did send my Jewish friend. I mean, I didn't say it because I don't know how to pronounce it, but I did send Shana Tova, Shana space Tova, Tova. So I do remember sometimes to be a good friend. Just not very often. I normally forget and miss stuff. So, but so strange how nobody else has kind of noticed the timing. I mean, I just throwing that out there, that nobody else noticed the timing. What I hadn't realized, it was actually recognizing the Palestinian state was in the Labour manifesto. And obviously the reason why I didn't realize it is because I didn't read the Labour manifesto. So that will be a lesson to all of us for any future by-elections, elections, anything like that. What we should be doing is running their manifestos through the AI, because there's just loads and loads of shit, right? And we now that we can start. Hey, Linda! Now that we can start using AI, we can start dissecting the crap that they are putting out there. But so this will have. This makes more sense, with regards to the Corbyn and the crazy woman. I can't remember her name. The Birmingham MP lady breaking off because they hadn't done it yet, because it was in their manifesto. And obviously they had a little bit of a falling out, and she was going to sue him, and now they're not suing each other, and they over some dodgy website that she put up. He didn't know about. I don't know. Anyway, so when they kind of said, "Oh, we've got like 300,000 members," and it was just people signing up for the newsletter, and now they've got like, I think 20,000 people have paid potentially. I just it's pathetic, but it will just see we'll see the rise of the Green Party anyway. But we've been through both of those. But it's interesting that nobody is pointing out the fact that we recognize Palestine the day before the Jewish New Year, because we could have done it at any point, right? Any point. But also, so they did it after. So they wait till after Trump's visit, right? So waited till after Trump's visit because they know Trump's kept saying no. I just want to throw out there, I do not agree with it in any way, shape, or form. I do not agree with a terrorist organization dictating terms that I think it's a very, very slippery fucking soap, right? So I was always under the impression that we didn't deal with terrorist states, which is why we put all those sanctions on Russia, right? Obviously, there's kind of no sanctions on China and all the human rights abuses they do. You know, we're like still besties with them. But it's just specific terrorists that they don't like. Obviously, the ones that are trying to wipe out the Western civilization, they're the good terrorists, according to our government. The bad terrorists are people who want to preserve Western civilization. Interestingly, hey Chris, you're not late. No, you're never. Nobody's late. Takes me forever to get anywhere. So you haven't missed anything other than the fact that we said we declared the whole two-state solution the day before Jewish New Year, which is so it's important to remember that Hamas are the terrorist organization, and they are designated a terrorist organization by the government. So I'm not lying in any way, shape, or form. We also have the Palestinian Authority, which is called the PA, I'm sure it is, who have technically been in charge, right? So each of the three countries have put so they're kind of saying we're recognizing it if, right? So it's not supposedly it's not a case of them just saying, oh yeah, right, you can, off you go on your jollies. I mean, it pretty much that's what's happening, but supposedly. So this is how they're kind of like saving face. And so they are saying, let me just scroll up, because I did ask Grok to just summarize the 2.5 hours of trawling we've done, but he just didn't. Give me like one-liners. So here we go. They're saying they're doing it. I mean, to be fair, Israel are completely fucking insane, right? And they do keep trying to spark World War III. So I'm not saying, let's just put this in context. I'm not saying that the innocent people deserve to be killed on either side. I'm not saying Israel is right. I think Netanyahu is a fucking psychopath and sociopath and probably a sadist, to be fair. Anyway, however, and is trying to spark World War III. Right. However, I don't agree with recognizing a Palestinian state, because they've tried that. So something else has to happen. Right. That's the thing. Something else has to happen, because that's not the solution. Because anytime it's been proposed before, the Palestinian side of things, they've said no. Like every single time they've said no. And actually, the Jewish population have said yes multiple times. The Palestinian side have said no, and it's sparked multiple wars, right? So, like, literally. So the UK are saying, so we're saying we did it because Israel didn't do the ceasefire, right? So bearing in mind, all of our politicians are being funded by Israel, including, Starmer and Lamy is friends of Israel. So they're being funded. So we have to make sure that we're looking at this from outside. We're not kind of like getting bogged down in like, oh my gosh, they're supporting the terrorists. They're not. They're being funded. They're being funded by Israel to do this. So this is why we have to look at this with our intelligent head on, not our emotional head, right? So emotions aren't useful. So why would Israel want the UK, Canada, and Australia to recognise Palestine? That's what we need to figure out. In my very simplistic noggin, I would suggest because now Israel have potentially a mandate to do even more catastrophic harm because they're on their own, right? There's nobody is supporting us anymore, right? We're still giving them weapons. We're still like supporting them through the back, like not even through the back door. We're still fucking giving them money. We're still giving them weapons. We're still funding Hamas. Like we're funding both sides of it, right? So it's the weapons manufacturers, so they're still funding everything the same as they were back in World War One and the Bolshevik Revolution and all of that stuff. So nothing's changed. Like people are still, and it isn't going to change anything. But we have to remember that both UK, Canadian, and Australian politicians who are being funded by Israel have now done this, and it's not because they've turned, right? It's not because they've turned. We have to bear that in mind, is they will have been told to do this because they don't think for themselves in any way, shape, or form. So supposedly Canada says that they have recognized it, but they say that it's so the conditions. So they've given conditions. We're going to recognize it on the condition that there's reforms in the 2026 elections and Hamas is not allowed anywhere near it. Right. Australia have recognised it because they want the ceasefire and they want the hostage releases. Right. So they've all kind of said this and said why they're doing it, but they haven't. That's not how you negotiate. Like, Chris, if you nicked me mum, right? You just kidnapped me mum. And I say to you, okay, I will give you all of this money. And wait a minute. And then maybe at some point in the future, you potentially might give me my mum back. Like, you haven't made a deal to do that. I'm just going to throw it at you. Right? That's not why you stole my mum. You stole my mum because, I don't know, you just wanted to. It's the only thing I can come up with. But it's like, you haven't sent a ransom note. Like this is you haven't said, I've stole your mum, pay this money and I will return her. Because then you go, okay, well, let's give the money over. And but we don't, supposedly, we don't negotiate with terrorists, right? So we're not even negotiating with Hamas. We've already done the thing, right? So it's like you stole my mum, and before I've given you any money, you've just given her back and be like, pay me at some point if you want. She's returned. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna pay you because I've got what I want, right? This is ludicrous. I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this on these conditions. But we've already done the thing without you doing the conditions. It's really strange. And I do know that you're not going to steal my mum, Chris. I mean, she would drive you batty. So it's really fucking dodgy. And it's even more dodgy because they make it sound good. So they're kind of saying, oh, well, it's because, you know, they won't have Hamas in the 2026 election. It like they weren't supposed to have Hamas in the other ones. It's also important to remember that Hamas has been kind of like teeth in for 20 years. And if you look at what goes on in the United Kingdom with generations, and we'll go outside of terrorism, we'll just talk about benefit generations, right? It only takes 3 generations for that to be the new normal. So anybody who's on because they see their parents on benefits, they see their grandparents on benefits, and that's the trap. Is 3 generations in and you're stuck. So sorry, my computer did something strange. So this is 20 years Hamas has been in. This entire conflict has been going on for almost 100, like in earnest, for almost 100 years. So this isn't just 3 generations. This is like, I don't know, 5 generations. So to suggest that, oh, well, we're just going to take the prescribed people who call themselves Hamas, we're going to take them out of it. There's lots of people in Palestine who maybe they don't have the Hamas ID, right? But they have the same ideology. And it is an anti-Jewish, anti-Christian, anti-non-Muslim, and it's not even anti-non-Muslim, it's anti-non-extreme Islam. And so this is why my heart breaks. Like, I know people who escaped, and you know, they're still Muslim, which is fine, it's their faith, right? They escaped the horrors of where they were growing up because it changed, because it when they were little, it wasn't the way it is now, and they escaped and they came to a country which was safe, and they are literally watching England and the United Kingdom turn into the same dangerous cesspit where women can be raped, tortured, murdered, and it's okay because they're women, right? This is what we are saying is okay, right? And I personally, right, let's just roll it back. I don't believe we have any right to recognize or not recognize anybody else at all whatsoever. I don't think that's up to us. I don't think we should be meddling in other people's countries because I don't think they should be meddling in ours, right? So this comes back to what we were talking about last week, like, stop being a fucking hypocrite. If they want to say they're a country, then fine, right? They should be able to battle it out. That's what's happened. That's how lines get drawn. It's not up to me to decide that those 2 countries no longer want to kind of coexist peacefully. Like, let them do it. And if we want to fight France, let us fucking do it. I mean, I don't particularly want to fight France, but you know, they've been our common enemy for a very long time. But I don't understand. It drives me crackers. Yes, I would love everybody to live peacefully. That isn't going to happen with a single institution deciding who's allowed to live peacefully. So, you know, case in point, what's going on in Ukraine, right? So, and Russia were not in the wrong with what happened. Ukraine were in the wrong because the UN and NATO were pushing. So we also have the UN causing shit in Israel and Palestine. So this is what I say. So it's all bullshit, pretty much. It's just all bullshit. And it's important that we do remember this isn't a new conflict. Like people are pasting it. People are pushing it as though it's like, oh, this is like it's only new. We need to kind of settle it. Like they've literally been killing each other for over 3,000 years, like definitely 2,000 years, but longer. I mean, obviously the Arabs weren't knocking around then, but the Jewish people were fighting with their neighbors back then, the Philistines, which is, you know, where Palestine came from, who aren't Arabs. Let's remember the geopolitics of what was going on over there. It was the Roman Empire. Then we had the Ottoman Empire. So anybody suggesting the Arabs were there before the Jews is just hilarious, because Muhammad didn't exist before Moses. Like that's just like basic history. It kind of went Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. There's no way Muhammad was like were occupying that state before the Jewish people, because he came third in the Abrahamic succession. Like, and why isn't anybody just like using basic history, like not even going into, well, you know, we had and I said Nero because I apologize, it wasn't Emperor Nero, it was Emperor this something or other. Oh, fiddlesticks. Who actually wiped Judea off the map because he got angry. There was a Jewish revolt in 63 CE, and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, which is obviously what they're trying to rebuild to start World War III. Roman Emperor Vespasian. And they renamed Judea, Syria, Palestina. And yeah, so it was Roman. And they also, so the Muslim conquest was 636 years after Jesus. So it's not like, it's just silly. Like it's just silly. Like for anybody, like that's the first thing I need to find a lefty and just be like, but Moses came first, love. Like legit. Moses, Jesus, Muhammad. Like about 1,500 years later. The heads would explode, right? Because I'm obviously making it up, because that's just how they think. Now, what is really interesting is that when I was saying to kind of Grok, I was like, okay, well, what does this mean for us? And I know we kind of like spoke about the whole recognizing Palestine and the legal stuff already. So I didn't want to, and I'm not revisiting that. But obviously I knew they'd recognized it yesterday because I saw the news. And Croc was like, oh, they haven't yet. I was like, they fucking did, mate. I had to go and find the information and be like, look, here we go. And I've had to do that on a few other things for today. It's naughty. Like this is why you can't just ask an AI question. Like you have to have your own actual knowledge, and you can use them to dig like a more sophisticated search engine, but that's it. Like you already have to know the truth, and sometimes they tell you that what you're saying isn't true, and you have to go and like literally prove it. So the two-state solution history. So let's get this nailed down. Excuse me. So post-Ottoman Palestine, so that's from 1918, right? So after World War One. Can everybody let's just remember the Ottomans sided with Germany. Right? That so they lost World War One. Britain didn't just come along and take it. It was a war and we won. And this is why I'm saying we should allow Israel and we should allow Russia. That's how we got all of our land. That's where we got, just because we're now decided that we're ahead, it doesn't mean that we have a right. Everyone's like we don't have a right to decide somebody else if they want to go at it. Like if you want to kill each other, kill each other. I don't agree with it, but it's not my job. It's not my country. I don't live there. It's not my country. If I lived there, then I'd have a right to be very angry at them fighting, right? So we, the Brits, captured Palestine from the Ottomans, and we were given a League of Nations mandate in 1922. So to all the lefties out there, let's just remember World War One, where if you're British, you probably had relatives that died fighting and protecting this country, and the Palestinians were on the other side of the war, right? They wanted you dead, right? They still want you dead. Nothing's changed. Anyway, so the Balfour Declaration fueled Jewish immigration, sparking Arab-Jewish tensions. And remember, they were kind of being expelled from Russia. There was a lot of them in Russia at the time, and they were being expelled. And that was the first time we really saw the 6 million Jews thing. It was from Russian newspapers at the end of the 1800s, early 1970s. And then they just obviously resurrected the same story, what MI6 did. For after World War II in around the 1970s. So before then, it was always 300,000, but in the 1970s, it became 6 million Jews. So basically, they believed enough time had lapsed and enough generations had gone, and obviously with the decline of the with school and history and the hippies and all being dumb and everybody not wanting to talk about the war. So there was a huge whitewash of the war in real time, because everybody decided that we won't talk about it because it's so horrific. And then in the 1970s, we came up with all this extra propaganda. And obviously it was MI6 who kind of started making up all the shit about, there being gas, there being, and then that's documented in memos in the Q archives. That's actual history, real life conversations between was it Churchill and somebody else? I forget who the memos were between, but it's basically what are we going to do when people realize we just fucking lied right about all this stuff? Because they lie for propaganda, the same as they did with Pearl Harbor, right? To get the Americans in the war. So violence escalated in 1929. There were riots. 1936 to 1939, there was the Arab Revolt. In 1947, we went, laters, dude, right? Laters, deal with it. And then the UN proposed a partition plan, right? So Resolution 181 for a two-state Jewish and Arab solution. So that was in 1947. So we've just had World War II. People are focusing on rebuilding. They're like, okay, look, let's just separate it out. You do you, you do you. Let's put these 25 years of kind of turbulence to side, and we'll all just kind of rebuild. And the Arab said, computer says no. Not the Jewish people. The Arab said, the computer says no. So between 1948 and present day, well, in 1948, Israel declared independence, right? So they were just like, we are going to separate ourselves. We are no longer going to be Arab-owned. We're now going to be the Jewish state, right? The only Jewish country in the entire world. Let's put that into perspective. Only Jewish country in the entire world. And the Arabs said, no, you're not doing that. And so this triggered the Arab-Israeli war. So bearing in mind, Palestine right now are declaring independence. That's pretty much what they want to do. They want to declare independence, and everybody says that they have a right to. Israel doing the same thing 75 years ago is what triggered the civil war. So nothing has changed at all. It's really important that anytime people are talking about this, that we have to remind them that nothing has changed. Israel gained territory beyond the UN plan. So they were naughty back then, right? They were like, oh, well, we're just going to have this fucking corner. But if you were like in a war, because it wasn't peaceful, like Israel agreed, Palestine said no, then they attacked Israel, and Israel went, well, if you're fighting us, we're going to fight you back, and we're going to take the territory that we conquer, because that's what happens in a war, right? You defend yourself, and then you push your enemies back, and you keep pushing them back, and as you gain ground, they lose ground, and you take it. Like they didn't just be like, right, they didn't just like, you stay there, because they tried that already. Tried it already. And again, reiterate, I am not being funded by Israel. But they're both wrong. But we just let's put it into the concept, like actual what's going on in a real war. So Jordan was controlling the West Bank, and Egypt took Gaza, right? So Egypt had it. Egypt was like, fuck it, we'll have it. Jordan was like, we'll have this bit. Egypt's like, we'll have this bit, right? So it wasn't a Palestinian state back then, because Jordan and Egypt was like, we'll have these bits. So that wasn't even Israel didn't do that bit. So then there was the 1956 Suez Crisis, 1967 Six-Day War, when Israel captured West Bank. So they would have captured it from Jordan, because Jordan had the West Bank. Then they took Gaza. So they took Gaza from Egypt, and then they took East Jerusalem, right? So they didn't take Palestine from the Palestinians. They took the West Bank from Jordan. They took Gaza from Egypt, and then they took East Jerusalem. 1973, there was the Yom Kippur War, and then there was the Intifadas, 1987 to 1993, and then 2000 to 2005. So that was still another Intifada. I hope that's how you say it. Then there was the Oslo Accords in 1993 to 1995, which established the Palestinian Authority. And this is when they were kind of given rule, right? They were given rule over the land that we know as Palestine. However, nobody sat down and drew a proper map. Nobody decided whose was what access you could have with what. And then obviously Hamas was infiltrated, much like the UK government has been completely infiltrated by Muslim Brotherhood, by the Chinese CCP, by the Israeli lobby, so it's not a stretch to understand how it happens. Like, we literally have terrorist affiliated individuals running, allegedly terrorist affiliated individuals now running our Home Office. We have people standing up in Parliament, MPs, calling for Sharia courts, who the woman who's responsible for justice and victims is saying, and used to be responsible for looking after women and, championing against domestic violence, is now saying that we need to respect Sharia courts under the guise of being tolerant. How about we protect the people who live in the country who are being raped, tortured, abused, murdered, and it's lawful under a Sharia court. But here's my, well, I will just create my own religion, and I will have my own law. I think that's what we should do. We should be like the religion of Katie. And I believe in free will. So do what the fuck you want and you're fine. There you go. That's it. Let's start a revolution. Be like, no, it doesn't apply to me, love. Like if there's that you set precedents, if that person's allowed 3 wives because they can under Sharia law, even though if they live in the United Kingdom and our law says XYZ, then I can say whatever the fuck I want on social media and you can't arrest me. I mean, I will anyway. And good luck. Because if there's no victim, there's no crime. Despite your bullshit legislation. So it's been proposed multiple times. So in 1937, there was the Peel Commission. It was rejected by the Arabs. 1947, there was the UN Partition Plan, accepted by Jews, rejected by Arabs. 2000 Camp David Summit. Israel offered 91 to 95% of West Bank and Gaza. Arafat said no because he wanted Jerusalem. 2001 Tabba talks, they collapsed because Israel had elections. 2008 Olmert proposal, they offered 93 to 97% of West Bank with land swaps. They said no. And when, by the way, when the Palestinian Authority kind of like took over, a lot of Israel, they just kind of went home. They went home, right? And they had a thriving economy, and they had farms, and they had shops, and they had and they just destroyed them all because that's what they did. They just destroyed everything. So do I support Palestine? I don't support terrorists, if that's what you're asking. I support innocent people having the right to choose their to self-determination. I don't think it's the UK's responsibility to decide who is allowed to have a country or not have a country. I support innocent people. I don't support terrorist organizations. So it depends what you mean by do I support Palestine? I mean, do I support what? Take it off the internet for saying that. Okay. So, but now they'll, yeah, I think it's very dodgy. Okay, so we've just kicked the hornet's nest the day before the Jewish New Year. So that's always a lovely thing to do. And let's not forget that Labour have also been very traditionally, so they will be hemorrhaging Jewish votes. And so they will have to lean harder on, my system's doing strange things. They will have to lean harder on Islam-based votes, especially as they're creating their own parties, right? So we will see. Oh, here we go. We'll get the actual Nazis, right? So I will have Jeremy Corbyn, an actual Nazi, because he's just, well, I mean, he's more communist. So, I mean, Starmer's the Nazi, isn't he? Because he's a fucking socialist. But again, I think he's more communist. So anyway, National Socialists, like that's we're going to see the proper rise of militant psychopaths on the left. And that's what happened in Germany. Because they killed all the capitalists. They took over the free press. They took over the businesses, and they got rid of anybody who was speaking against them, and nationalized everything. my system's like glitching like crazy. It's driving me bonkers. Okay, so enough on Palestine and Israel. So we had Trump's visit, and there was a lot of pomp. A lot of pomp. And I think it was very strange. At no point have I ever seen anybody other than a royal person being in a royal carriage. It was really strange. And garish. And it was just odd. Like, I think that's the only way to explain it, that it was extremely odd. And I genuinely don't think it needed to be like that at all. It was just weird. It was just weird. It was weird. Like, I get when you have okay, so let's look at the other heads of states. I mean, other heads of states who've come over, and also other, because we invite terrorists into number 10, like legit terrorists into number 10 for convos. None of them get that. Not even when we have, like, other royals visiting. Do they get, like, Jubilee style, like, Queen's birthday, King's birthday style events? And obviously they had to put there was the whole hologram of Trump and Epstein. Why didn't they have Mandelson on there? Like, it was literally being sacked. Why didn't they have fucking Starmer and Jimmy Savile on there? Why didn't they have King Charles and Bishop Ball, or King Charles and Jimmy Savile? Right? It was just it was just weird. It was just weird, and I couldn't even really muster up the energy to be involved in it. Like, it's, and I that I like Trump. I like him more because he just says what he says what he's thinking. He doesn't give a shit, right? I think that's why I really like him, because he doesn't. I just it was just strange. So, I found out what was discussed because I think it's important, and I think it's very potentially dangerous for us in the UK. So the historic visit, as they are calling it, was 150 billion tech prosperity deal, supposedly. 7,600 UK jobs in AI, quantum computing, and nuclear energy. And so we have to make sure that we're thinking after Trump, right? So in 3 years from now, when we have another fucktard in the White House, right? Unless America pulls their fucking finger out. Because as far as I can see, America have got somebody in there trying to do stuff, and they are not doing their jobs to clear shit out. Like, they're just expecting him to do everything, which is utterly retarded, right? They went from everybody's part of the swamp to they can't even see the fact that JD Vance is swamp. They can't even see the fact, like, it's baffling, like, absolutely baffling. Like, it must be cult like in America. I mean, whether they are for him or against him, because otherwise you are just looking at who he's got around him thinking, what the fuck's going to happen in 3 years if I don't do something, right? That, like, they're just still not doing anything. It's It's insanity. So what I'm sat here thinking is, I mean, yes, we are potentially a good location for AI because we're an island and we're surrounded by water. But do I really want to be on a fucking AI prison island? No. No. Not in any way, shape, or form. Red Ed, is he going to be happy with the whole nuclear energy deal? Is it even going to happen? Right? He's still refusing to let us. We pay the highest energy rates of anywhere in the world. Like even war zones have cheaper energy than what we have. I saw that they'd got a TikTok resolution, but I didn't see who it has. And it's so we had Tim Cook here. We had so Apple. I don't see how this is good. Good. So we are now going to be AI and quantum computing. And you remember me last week talking about the difference between normal computing and quantum computing? We already have fucking Minority Report. And now we are going to give our government like 150 fucking billion to be the hub of AI and quantum computing. Like, I don't understand why that's not shitting everybody up. And the fact that they're pushing for the digital IDs, and the fact that they're pushing for the CBDs, and the currency, and the fact that they are just, we've got more cameras than anybody in the entire world. The fact that, like, I just think that we've got 15-minute cities. They're put like this is scary. We supposedly have a 22 million black hole, but Starmer pledged billions to AI. So we've already got UK government putting billions into AI and quantum computing, and now Trump's supposedly putting there's 150 billion coming from the USA, and supposedly it's to kind of combat China. But we have Chinese spies in Parliament. We have 43,000 ISIS jihadi terrorists on the watch list. We have, like, I just think this is really dumb move. I don't think you should be giving a country which is literally about to be Lebanon 2.0 the capacity to really easily find dissenters and it be in the hands of the psychopathic elite. Like, at all. And I don't think anybody's kind of think of it like that. Maybe it's just my brain's like, what the fuck? Maybe it's because I just like we have, okay, so let's roll things back. So 2007, we had the full hologram, like everybody's digital twins already there, right? We have Matt Hancock. So everybody remember that Cockwomble? He was in charge of he had like in charge of a company or had loads of stakes in the Human Genome Project, right? That was what UK did. The USA did the Brain Initiative through Obama, and we did like the Gene Project, as we were kind of heads. So like between our two countries, they've completely mapped the brain and the genome. We have AI, we have quantum computing. I just think I think we should just stop. I think that's it. I think I think we should just stop. So I was looking into the speed at which quantum computing works, and it can process the rate at which it processes information is so large. My brain couldn't even compute how much it could do in like seconds. It would take no time at all to turn the UK into a complete prison island. Like, it just like, we have no off-ramp. Like, because we are, like, trapped in a fucking island. I I don't see how this is a good thing. 'Cause it's like, what, 7,500 jobs? Or the entire nation in a fucking prison island. Like, where you're tracked left, right. I mean, we already have tracking capabilities. They already are able to upload your memories into the cloud. Like, they've been doing that already. And that's obviously how clones work. That the chip that they have in their head is because they use the human brain cells. They like, and this isn't like this is all like documented science, right? With regards to um this stuff. I I and I'm not saying maybe we do it in a I just think doing it in a very potentially, I think where we are as a nation actually, like, makes us a very risky nation to be giving that kind of technology to. Because we are very fast approaching the point at which the natives are the minority and the interlopers are the same ones who are in another country that they don't want to have nuclear capabilities. So we stop Iran and Tehran and places like that having the capacity to build nuclear weapons. We import them into the United Kingdom, who has nuclear weapons. We have Trident, we have submarines that can launch nukes. We have ships that can launch planes and stuff from you can literally get anywhere in the world. I mean, they break down, right? But we have them, right? So while we are so we have a really technologically advanced armed forces, and the armed force personnel are trained to act, not think, right? They're trained to act. I mean, it's because otherwise, if you have everybody on the front line thinking, then chances are that they're not going to do what they're told, and you can't have that. So we spoke about how they're just like trained like to just act, right? Which is anyway. And even if there's this whole grand master plan, in 3 years, what happens? Right? So the UK is a fucking powder keg. And so we had Palestinian recognition on the day before Jewish New Year, and we've had like everybody fucking pushing for the war, right, over and over. So they're pushing for the Bill of Rights, they're pushing for all of this stuff. Just don't think that the UK is a safe place to be bringing this technology. And it's potentially because we have like lots of access to water, I guess. I mean, are you allowed to use? Is it salt water, or does it have to be fresh water? Because if it's fresh water, then we will be going through super droughts, right? Because the only water we get is fucking sewage filled, and I don't think you can give sewage filled water to a quantum computer. Yeah. But yes, it's never happened before. And he did walk in front of Charles. He walked in front of the Queen as well. And now I know that that's kind of the whole. It's not just because he's uncouth. It's because they wouldn't allow it to happen, right? They wouldn't. You get told. So when you meet royalty, you get told, and you have to. This is the etiquette, and Trump, while a bit, he is uncouth, right? And I love him for it. He's not, he doesn't shit on people's customs, right? He's very respectful of other people's customs, and he's it's like got Scottish heritage, so he's it don't it there's no way he was doing it to be a twat. He was doing it to show the people who needed to see what was going on, right? So I get that. But it was just still fucking insane. But I just think this whole giving us, like, making us the AI one. I mean, look at the absolute havoc that has been brought across the entire world with Alphabet Inc. owning Google, or having with Facebook, like all of those institutions that were in fucking Psycho Valley in the USA. And they're clearing stuff out in the USA. It's getting worse over here. I know I'm going on, but I can't see how it's a good thing. But there wasn't much change really. So there's still the steel and the pharma issues with regards to trade. US tariffs have gone from 25% to 10% on automotive products. So it's still like it was again. So this is what I mean. So it's if we put it into perspective, right? So Trump's visit came. They announced 150 billion worth of trade deals. The pomp and ceremony was way out of proportion for that. Like, just absolutely was way out of proportion. Which means it obviously meant a hell of a lot more to the, capitulation and all of those things. But they're still ignoring him. Or are they though? Or is it all supposed to fucking happen? I don't know. To spark the only thing I can see that's happening is going to spark a civil war, like in earnest. I don't know. So I just think it was strange. They did, though. What they did agree was to strengthen the UK, Australia, and US ties, because there obviously has been a lot of tension around Australia and China, like trying to get. So we've had China. There was the whole. Do you remember the wine blockade? They couldn't get wine in Australia, but obviously Australia is very strategically key. And there was that. That kind of alliance was fractious, and so that's been shored up. So I personally think it had a lot more to do with China and Russia behind the scenes that's not potentially being discussed. China, Russia, and Israel, and Palestine, which is why I think that's weird that they kind of did the whole Palestine thing. But the fact that the US, UK, and Australia deal was kind of shored up and re-agreed, and like I think it's the China threat. So we'll see whether the Chinese embassy gets to come off, right? So there's a huge legal challenge against that at the moment, the super embassy. But I think that's probably, I mean, China's just fucking dangerous, really dangerous. Okay, so move on now to our new secret weapon, which isn't, right? So I've been looking into the Hillsborough Law, and I hadn't realized until I started really digging, because I was like, I saw it and I was like, oh, this is going to make things easier, because we already have the misconduct in a public office, which is the common law offence. So this is like extra. It's not extra, it's going to replace it. So, misconduct in a public office is the last common law offence that's on the statute books. Um, so this is they've been slowly going through all of the old outdated laws and updating them, right? So they've actually been doing that for about 30 years, 20 or 30 years. I mean, would you remember me saying before, that's how they found that one where it was okay to kill a Welsh person in York on a Wednesday with a bow and arrow because it was the market day, right? So all of those kind of like leftover laws that was still legal, they're not anymore. You can't do it anymore. And you probably would have had a job of actually like proving it was fine to do so even 20 years ago. But when I saw the Hillsborough law, so that was on the 16th of September, it was kind of being talked about. So it's in its second, I believe it's in its second reading. So it's not law yet. I was like, oh, this is going to make it easier because it's going to kind of define things. But actually, I don't think it's going to make any difference. I actually think it's going to have a negative effect. Here's why. So let's just to recap what the Hillsborough Law is, and for those of you joining from outside the United Kingdom may not know about Hillsborough. So in 1989, there was it's called the Hillsborough disaster. So at a football match, there was I can't remember exactly what happened. Let me just double check because I don't want to be misrepresenting what happened. So the lie was that there was a riot. There wasn't. It was a football match and people were being kettled and they ended up getting pushed against the fences. Oh, that's it. Oh yeah, because I did quite a bit of digging. Let me just go back. Okay, so the Hillsborough Law, which is officially going to be called the Public Office Accountability Bill 2025. Landmark legislation introduced into the Parliament September 16, 2025, ensuring transparency and accountability from public officials and authorities. So it's going to address systematic cover-ups in major disasters and scandals by imposing legal obligations to prevent misinformation and obstruction. And so that's why I was like, well, this sounds good, considering we just had like the Rona misinformation panic. Key provisions include scandals by imposing legal obligations to prevent misinformation. Oh, sorry, hold on. So my apologies. I said the same thing again. So statutory duty of candor and assistance. So public officials and authorities such as police, NHS, schools, local government must act with honesty, transparency and proactively assist inquiries and inquests with criminal sanctions, so fines or up to 7 years of imprisonment for serious breaches such as withholding evidence or falsifying records. New offence of misleading the public. So it's going to have two different offences rather than just one misconduct. A statutory offence targets public officials who deliberately mislead the public in a seriously improper manner, replacing the common law offence of misconduct with two new statutory offences: corrupt or seriously improper conduct and abusing public trust. Now, there is a good thing. There's going to be legal aid. So it's going to provide non-means tested legal aid for bereaved families at inquests where the state is represented, ensuring parity with public bodies' resources. Because that's always been an issue, is that they removed the legal aid for kind of like general citizens. Obviously gave it to the illegals. So now it's been kind of non-means tested. So you will be able to access legal aid. So you will be able to access a government-funded legal person. Anyway, so described as the largest legal aid expansion in a decade. It supposedly aims to level the playing field for the victims. So ethical conduct duty. So public authorities must promote ethical behaviour among staff, aligning with principles of integrity and accountability. So the bill will apply to public bodies, their employees, including agency workers. This is extra scope compared to misconduct, and private entities performing public functions. Again, so outsourced NHS providers will be accountable under this law, which is potentially good. So it's currently in the second reading of the House of Commons, subject to amendments, not yet law. So obviously it goes to House of Commons, then it goes to House of Lords. So it's not going to be kind of like straight away. So the Hillsborough disaster of 1989. So 97 Liverpool Football Club fans died in the crush at Sheffield's Hillsborough Stadium during an FA Cup semi-final. Initial blame falsely fell on fans, with police spreading lies about hooliganism and drunkenness to deflect responsibility. There was a 27-year campaign by families and survivors, led by figures like Margaret Aspinall, exposed police cover-ups, culminating in a 2016 inquest ruling the deaths were unlawful killings due to police failures. The campaign inspired the Hillsborough Law Now movement, backed by victims of other scandals such as Grenfell, Infected Blood, Post Office, Horizon, Manchester Arena bombing. And in 2017, so this is where my kind of spidey senses started tingling. In 2017, Andy Burnham and Steve Rotherham, who are now mayors, obviously, introduced a private members bill, which then fell by the wayside due to the 2017 election. So Keir Starmer, as the Director of Public Prosecutions, and then now the lead, the dickwad in number 10, pledged to enact the law, fulfilling a 2024 Labour manifesto commitment. The 2017 report by Bishop James Jones, The Patronising Disposition of Unaccountable Power, highlighted the need for systematic reform to address institutional defensiveness and ensure justice for victims. The bill responds to decades of families facing a David versus Goliath battle against state cover-ups, aiming to prevent future injustices. And so I was like, oh, so it was on the Labour manifesto. Burnham, the mafia boss, or believes he's a mafia don, did it as a private members bill. I mean, they do lots of things for votes, right? They do lots of things for votes. But this wouldn't have been a huge amount of votes. They wouldn't have, if this had fallen by the wayside, it wouldn't have cost them very much, really, because it's been such a long time, right? So 27 years worth of cover-up. So the majority of Labour voters, who were the young, they don't even know about it. And I was born 1983, so I knew about it growing up, and I just wanted to make sure I got the facts right reading it out to you. But bloody weird things. So then I was just like, it's actually, in my personal opinion, it's going to encourage more waste paper bin fires, because now they can get 2 years in prison for misleading and up to 7 years in prison for being like completely abhorrent. And obviously this isn't the only law that applies to them. If they murder somebody, they can still be done for murder and rape and all of those sorts of things. But I think, so we have to put it into the context of the reality of how our justice system works. So the reason why they're pushing this is because there's been 115 cases of misconduct reported, and only, is it 13 or 15? Let me double check. Oh man. Either 13 or 15 has been kind of prosecuted. So that's because if you think a police officer, so let's just say if you think a police officer is being dodgy, you still have to go to the IOPC, whether you're doing misconduct or whether you're doing this new Hillsborough law thing, right? And so it's the Independent Office of Police Commissioners who decide to prosecute, but who decide to investigate. It's still the CPS who decide to prosecute, right? And let's not forget that only 3% of rapes are prosecuted because the CPS deem them too expensive, not likely to win. Obviously, if there's trials, there's discovery, and you don't want to know what is really going on. Also, let's remember that I could start a civil proceeding, right? I could start a civil proceeding using any law. The CPS can come and take over that case, and then once they have it, I can't get it back, and then they can decide it's not in the public interest and just quash it. If you have a problem with the NHS, you will still have to go to the regulatory body who oversees the NHS, so and doctors and staff. So we've got the GMC, there's the General Medical Council. So they are already covering things up, right? So the doctors who were speaking out against COVID were struck off the register, and the actual doctors who were speaking out are not the ones that you're seeing on the internet. There's a doctor who was speaking out in March 2020. He was like removed from place and struck off the register within like weeks with no fanfare, and is still fighting his court case, right? So it's not the same as Dr. Sam White, who got loads of money off people, and all he actually wanted, all that he had reinstated was his right to say what he wanted on social media, and he was allowed and he wanted to be allowed to work, right? And then he went back to work, and does anybody heard from him since? That's what he wanted. Like everybody funded him to get his job back. That was it, right? Because that was the entire case. It was just around him getting his job back. Anyway, this which is why this other guy still hasn't had his court case. I can't remember his name. But he's like a proper lefty as well, the other doctor, proper lefty. So, I mean, I don't agree with lots of the things he's saying, but I agree with his right to say them, obviously. But it's still not right what's happened. But so this is just kind of the disparity between who's being propped up, who's not being propped up. So, because I wanted to know, so I was this, because we had Mandelson and Epstein, we would have to prove. Right. So right now in these laws, you would have to prove that they knowingly and willingly misled. How are you going to prove that? Because they're just going to, if you are in cahoots, right, to mislead the public, let's say to make some money off a Chinese American bioweapon, right, as an example, now that this law's a thing, I'm going to hazard a guess and say you're not going to do it in a text message. You're not going to do it in an email, right? And they're probably not using emails after what happened to Hillary, right? Because she wasn't sending the emails. They were just saving drafts and logging in. Then they're not going to do it where there's some of them are fucking dumb, and they may be doing it where there's evidence. And it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's right because you are innocent until proven guilty. I don't see how we're ever going to prove that they knowingly and willingly misled the public, right? So I gave the example of the BBC with the Gaza documentary, because we know the BBC knowingly and willingly misled the public with their Gaza documentary, because it was the son of a Hamas politician who was pretending to be like a young boy who was starving, right? That was that whole scandal. And Grok said that didn't happen. I literally had to go to the BBC website where they retracted and they apologized. So Ofcom had to look into it, right? So if you've got a problem with it, because the BBC will count, so you have to go to Ofcom, and Ofcom choose not to investigate, right? They went, oh, well, we didn't find anything. And actually, in this instance, Ofcom said, oh, well, the BBC didn't know. It was the third party who didn't tell them, but the third party didn't mislead them. They just didn't think it was relevant. Right? How is it not relevant that you're like it's being created? The entire narrative is Hamas-based propaganda. How is that not relevant, right? So because technically with this law, you can then go, okay, so the BBC say, well, we didn't know, it was their fault, and we go to this other third party, because now we can, right? You can backtrack, and then go, well, we didn't mislead, the BBC didn't ask us. When they didn't ask us, we just assumed it wasn't important. Like, how are you going to prove? Genuinely, how are you going to prove that? It was willful misconduct before, i.e., this is your job and you're not doing it, right? I know what your job is and you're not doing it. Now we have they changed it. And so they've changed it because they're saying, well, nobody was being convicted. Well, very few people were being convicted under misconduct. That doesn't mean people weren't doing it. It just means the CPS wasn't prosecuting, and it also means the regulators weren't investigating. So that's my personal opinion, is we're being shafted. 100%. Just because they have a duty to be transparent. They already fucking do. They already do, right? With FOI requests. That's the law. They do go, oh, well, no. Sorry. This one's going to take me over 25 hours to investigate. So, sorry. Computer says no. I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it would have helped anybody in Hillsborough, because they would have just covered it up better. If you know, right now, you're like, well, nobody really does this misconduct thing, it's not going to come back on me. Now they're like, oh, well, I mean, I could go to prison for 7 years. And FYI, misconduct is up to like 25 years in prison. So the sentence is shorter. And it is well defined in case law. And we did this, like, when did we look in misconduct? 5 years ago. No need to apologize, Edwin. Come when you come. I will talk to myself if it's just me here. But so the sentence is less. So up to 2 years for misleading, and up to 7 years. And you know, because these are like, I mean, it's up to, what is it, like 25 years for murder, and they don't get that. They get less. It's up to God knows how many years for rape, and they get a suspended community sentence, right? So these are like indictable offenses and serious crimes. People aren't even going to prison. So do I have faith in this new law? No. Not in any way, shape, or form, because I don't have faith in the institutions who are running the justice system, or the politicians, and there's no way they're going to create something that actually gives us the power to get rid of them. And we know this for a fact, because every time anybody's tried to get like full recall as a law, funnily enough, that doesn't make it past the kind of like, we're just going to introduce it as a members bill phase, because if they give us the power to recall them at a drop of a fucking hat, then they'd have to do their jobs, right? So we have partial recall, and again, people are spreading this recall nonsense lie. We already looked into it. Like, the only way you can recall someone is if the speaker suspends them from the house. And we still have, right, because there's been 3 MPs done now for sexual dodginess, and there was 50, I'm pretty sure there was 56 or 57 who are still sitting MPs who are being investigated for serious sexual harassment, conduct, assaults. They're still serving, they're still being paid by the taxpayer. So they're being criminally investigated, and we are innocent until we're proven guilty. But I think public officials should be held to a higher account. It's naughty. So personally, do you know what? I think this is watering it down and making it harder. Just like, even if we get legal aid, like, it's not going to make a jot of difference, because you're not going to be able to prove anything at all. How do you prove somebody had? I mean, they just make it up, don't they? So, and these people won't be pleading guilty, right? They will have expensive lawyers. They will have they won't be confused and won't be pressured. They will just plead not guilty and be like, prove it. So that's how they get away with it. They just say not guilty and they say prove it. So it's not a secret weapon in any way, shape, or form at all. We need to start like a non-lawyers guild or something, where we all just pick one law and then like learn everything about it, all the case law, all the ways that it could be applied, and like you become like the go-to person for just that law. And then collectively we would be able to look after ourselves. And no lawyers are allowed, because you're all touchy as fuck. Not all of them. Some of them seem good, kind of, but seem very confused. Some of the lawyers who are giving advice with a quick interweb search, giving very strange advice that is not what the law says. Case in point. So you may or may not have seen, there's a video going around social media of a woman who is saying, let me see if I can see it, and then we'll go on to what we're on. We'll close it up. There's 2 police officers who, I think I shared it. Oh no, 2 lady police officers who are rocking up at this woman's door for her daughter's phone. And the police officer does say to her, we need the phone because she looked at a post in 20. So the police officer said, we need her phone. Now, I've only seen a snapshot of the video, right? So my first question, what I posted, well, what did it say on the warrant, right? Because if they're not giving a warrant for seizing of evidence, then you don't have to hand anything over, because they don't have a lawful right to take your property, right? The police, they can't take things. caveat, you don't need a warrant if there's an indictable only offence, right? And we've been through that. So that's rape, murder, like terrorism, hostage, kidnapping, the big uns, right? So if you believe somebody is kidnapped somebody and they're in the house, you don't have to present a warrant. You can just forcibly enter. Outside of that, if it's a non-indictable only offence, then they have to have a warrant, whether they want a warrant for somebody's arrest, or a warrant to go into a property, or a warrant to seize evidence, right? And this is like chain of custody. They have to prove that they have got enough. So okay, let's start again. So the police have to have suspicion. They have to have reasonable suspicion that a crime has been committed. Because this is what we have to do. We have to have reasonable suspicion a crime has been committed. And then we have to go about gathering enough evidence to prove that our suspicions are correct. And we have to meet a threshold to then go and get more evidence. And so then they have to apply for the courts to take people's property, to enter a property, to arrest somebody, right? They can't just be like, yeah, I think you mugged that guy, so I'm going to arrest you. Like, if you got like nothing. So even stop and search, right, contentious as it is, they will have a general description of somebody who's looking a bit fucking dodgy. And they will stop and search, right? So if I was getting off a train and everybody else on the train was like male, and they were looking for a white female with crazy ass like shoulder length, weird wavy ringlety blonde hair that always looks ginger on camera, like I would fit that description, right? So them stopping and searching me isn't being racist or singling me out. They will have to have like reasonable suspicion that I am the person who's potentially committed a crime somewhere else, right? They have to have reasonable suspicion. It can't just be like, I don't like that person, so let's just go fucking pat them down. I mean, I'm not saying they don't do that, but let's just go from what the law says, right? So similarly, so the video is the mum is recording on her phone, and the one police officer saying, you don't need to record that, I've got my body camera turned on. And I was like, I'm like, fair play to the mum. She goes, well, you can record, I'm allowed to record as well. And the one police officer clearly states, we need to get your daughter's phone because she looked at a post. And the mum says, you've got no right to look at her phone because she looked at a post on social media. And at no point did either two police officers correct that. The supposition is that they want the phone because they don't want the daughter to destroy evidence that she looked at a post. Now, this is a really strange thing to say. Sorry, guys. So the reason why this is a really strange thing to say is because how will they know whether she's looked at a post or not? If she's liked or commented or shared, there's evidence, right? And you can see that usually on social media. Also, they have the technology to, if they took my phone, they have the technology to see the back end of everybody's phones of the contacts that I know, right? They have that tech, and they've had that tech for a while. So they actually can't see whether she's looked at a post, even if they take her phone. If she's screenshot it, if she's shared it, if she's liked it, if she's commented on it. But if she's looked at it, a mobile phone will not show you whether you've looked at a post, because you could the post could have just appeared as you were going past it, right? So I've got no control over what appears in my feed. So I get Tommy Robinson's fucking bullshit posts all the time, and I keep fucking I don't like this content, and it still pops up, right? Because other people I know share it, and so it still fucking ends up in my timeline. But that's not me. Even if you were to like screen record my timeline, say for example on X and even on Facebook, that I haven't looked at that post, it's just been there, right? So what the police officer explicitly says is, we need to take your daughter's phone because she looked at a post, and we need to make sure she's not destroying evidence. That I never saw them present a warrant. Now the mum was getting quite irate, fair enough. And then they barge into the house, right? They barge into the house to take the daughter's phone. And the mum's saying, no, we'll come down the station. We'll present it at the station. I don't know why the mum wasn't asking for a warrant. She didn't seem to have a piece of paper. That's unlawful conduct. So that video is now been community noted. Underneath the community note, it is saying things like, as it supposedly transpires, the daughter is being investigated because she created a fake social media account of a name of somebody else who's a real person, and she's been using that to send, harass, and cause harm to other people. So she potentially committed an offense if that's her who's done that. Regardless, right? That's not what the policewoman said. And so now the mum has it on camera. That's not what she was told, which means that they can no longer use the phone or anything connected with the phone, because they took that mobile phone under false pretenses. And as far as I'm aware, they still didn't have a fucking warrant, right? So they lied to the mum about why they needed it. So if they had a warrant, it would state the reason we're seizing this, right? You have a right to know why you're being investigated and what you're being charged with. And that's dodgy. So there's a barrister who's then saying, okay, well, this is how you kind of deal with it. Like, if somebody knocks at your door, you quite rightly say, do you have a warrant? 100%. Hi, how can I help you? I need to come in and get your computer. Why? So, like, what reasonable suspicion do you have, and what warrant do you have to show that it's okay to come into my private place of residence to take my stuff? So if they're going to come in and search, they have to give you, because they have to have met this threshold. Anyway, so some of the stuff the barrister was saying, and he does say, I'm not a criminal barrister. And I'm like, well, okay, but actually, mate, you probably should have double checked before you jump on and gave people a bit of advice and then go, I'm just caveating, I'm not giving you advice. Like, well, as a barrister, and you've got a mate who does criminal law, probably should have spoke to him first. But so basically, he was just saying, I don't remember him saying you just ask to see the warrant, because that's it. You just ask to see the warrant. That's it. If they think you're a murderer, if they think they don't have to have one, right? But if they're going to arrest you and seize stuff, then they will still, like, you don't just like cuff somebody and throw them in the car. You have to say, you are being arrested for. The girl wasn't being arrested. They were seizing her property, and they never declared what it was for, didn't have a warrant. And obviously, even if she was being a very unpleasant little girl, that's not an indictable offence. So it's not an offence, indictable only offence, sorry. It's not an offence where you don't need a warrant. So they didn't meet the threshold in any way, shape, or form. So if that goes to court, like, the mum just needs to present the video of the fact that they lied to her, didn't follow procedures in any way, shape, or form. You just don't let them in. You don't need to let them in. They've got no right to come into your property unless and they would have to have a lot of fucking evidence if they think you've murdered somebody or kidnapped somebody or were a terrorist or right. So it's not like they can be like, oh, I think she's like murdered someone, so I'm just gonna go take a nosy. Has to be like, again, they still have to have reasonable suspicion of the crime taking place. So they still have to have evidence. They still have to, like, there's still a threshold whether they need a warrant or not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any more about that because it was only just I only saw it just before coming online. But yeah, just don't let them. But I also came across this thing. I'll share the link, which I'm gonna order. Here, wait. So this is a book. A book. So it's called Copper Stopper. There's only a few hundred copies left. But actually, there's a full like legal toolkit with 120 case files, updates, editions. I haven't looked at the thing. So almost 350 pages ish. But there's a good old chunk of all of this in here. So I've already got the Pace book. I've already got a few law books. Already got a few other kind of books. But it's an invaluable and practical guide to protecting yourself from agents of the state. Learn what you should and shouldn't say, discover what precautions you can take to maximize your safety, find out how to determine whether the police are acting lawfully, understand the shortcuts, illicit practices and underhanded tactics the police engage in during routine interactions. Most importantly of all, give yourself the confidence to stand up to any law enforcement official who abuses their power. So I already went toe to toe with, I mentioned this before, a 6'2" fucking rugby player looking let me just go to X and just drop this in the under me, so it, because it doesn't post to X. So I did look at who this guy was. I'm not just this is not an affiliate link or anything, by the way, guys. No. So Rob Warner is the guy who wrote it. There we go. Let me just. So it used to be called Crime Bodge. It was a 2012. Oh, I'm not sure. Share this tab. There we go. So the website was established in 2012 by Rob Warner as Crime Bodge to highlight the many abuses of the police against the public, particularly the police's casual indifference towards civil rights and their preference for enforcing their own brand of law during ordinary interactions. So there's also a YouTube channel. He's actively campaigned against the bias of the police complaints process, low standards of police training, police lack of basic understanding of the law, and the infiltration of the ranks by individuals unfit for public service. So this book, Copper Stopper, provides resources and advice to ordinary members of the public across a broad range of law enforcement issues, helping to protect them from the excesses of all types of law enforcement. So they brought a private prosecution against PC Mark Knight in 2021, a violent Derbyshire police officer who attacked an innocent member of the public during a road rage incident, and he was convicted of assault. In 2025, Rob published Copper Stopper, the ultimate guide to protecting the public from law enforcement. So, but he's also got, obviously this has got articles, and then they mentioned there's kind of like a YouTube channel as well. So So it looks quite, yeah, I do look, um oh, Tommy. I have to go read the Tommy one. We got to, haven't we? Not right now. I won't read it right now, but I will go read it. So there we go. Tommy Fakery. That's so I haven't got the book yet. Hey Kyle. Hey Carl. I did send you an email. I will send you another email. Um, whenever, whenever I will send you another email. Okay, so we are going to finish on. Now I need to go back to where I was. Me notes. Me notes. Oh, come on, you. Beyond. What did I say we're doing? Beyond dopamine. Okay. So real rewards of patience, because I think this is going to be really important. Because everything takes so slow. Everything takes such a long time. So I think this is useful for me as well. We are so used to instant gratification that we forget how slow the wheels of justice are. How everything takes such a long time. So we're going to kind of dive into a little bit of science about how we can move past dopamine. And just as an aside, you only get like a 1 to 5 minute high from dopamine. That's it, right? So it's like 5 minutes. That's the max. So you have to do lots of little things all the time in order to kind of stay like high on your own dopamine. Because I don't recommend drugs in any way, shape, or form, whether they're prescription or non-prescription. So dopamine, let's do some science. Dopamine drives instant rewards, right? However, patience rewires the brain's default mode network, the DMN, enhancing self-reflection and emotional resilience. So studies, we have to be careful of science, right? Because about 50% is bullshit. So we take studies with a pinch of salt, but it doesn't mean they're all bad. So a study in 2019 showed delayed gratification strengthens prefrontal cortex connections, improving decision making. So prefrontal cortex, this is obviously the front part of your brain. This is the part of your brain which is responsible for decision making, higher order cognitive functions. It's also where theory of mind is, and theory of mind is the idea that you can understand the world from somebody else's perspective. So this is where you kind of then develop empathy, because you understand, if you punch somebody without theory of mind, you don't understand that they're going to kind of be hurt from it. So this is a deficit that is prevalent in people with autism. And actually, I found out the other day, this was an interesting clone tidbit, is they have prefrontal cortex deficits. I mean, so yes, psychopaths do as well, which is why they just don't give a shit whether they hurt somebody. So we do have to remember we are using actual psychological terminology correctly. Psychopath is somebody who has no empathy. A sociopath is somebody who gets it enjoys causing pain. Sadist enjoys inflicting. But yeah, so psychopath is the one who they don't have empathy, right? So you can't just say, "Oh, that person's a psychopath." Like it's like an actual medical terminology. We've got to be careful. But so psychopaths, people with autism, and clones have prefrontal cortex deficits, and autism and psychopaths have theory of not necessarily I wonder whether everybody's properly looked in it, but also kind of this links back to the fun vax. Do you remember we were talking about the fun vax? It literally targets the same portion of the brain where theory of mind is, right? So once you kind of wipe out somebody's empathy, that's why you get. And I would say like lefties, like, just they definitely have a PFC deficit. So this is like decision making. This is reasoning. This is capacity to like just logical capacity to function. So. And this is diminished if you have anxiety, depression, you're in a fear state. It's still there. It's not probably firing on all cylinders, but it is still there. It doesn't get hijacked. Your amygdala doesn't hijack it. It is still there. They are still kind of chatting away to each other, but it's just not helpful. And we also then have to remember that it's not fully formed in humans until kind of like late teens is early, right? It's like you kind of get in like early 20s, it's really starting to be embedded. And this is why teenage boys particularly have no concept of consequences for their actions, right? So they're all about instant gratification, right? So they're about the they're going to do the thing that they think's going to make them feel good. And when you say to a teenage boy, why the fuck did you do that? Surely you knew the consequences. No, they actually didn't. Or maybe they did, like teeny tiny portion, but their brain's not actually firing on the consequences, right? And again, this is why I don't think the age of criminal responsibility should be it definitely shouldn't be 10, but I don't think it should. I think it should be 18. And I still think 18 is too young. And this is coming from a developmental psychological perspective of understanding the way in which the brain works. I don't think somebody should be held accountable in the same way as an adult. So it's not that they don't get held accountable, but they shouldn't be tried as an adult, because as an adult, my brain works to understand the consequences of my actions. Similarly, somebody who has depression and anxiety shouldn't be tried in the same way. And, I don't think they should have to prove that they're insane. Their brain literally, we know their brain will be struggling to function. This is why justice should be blind with regards to the who you are, but it should 100% take into account the capacity of your brain to process the consequences of your actions, because crimes are based on intent, right? Were you just angry and you lashed out and you pushed somebody and then they hit their head and they ended up dead? I mean, you did still kill somebody, so you should be the justice does need to be served, but it's very different to you meticulously planning how you were going to end somebody's life, right? And a young person may not even be aware that they could push some. And I know this sounds bonkers to the adults in the room, but they may not actually be aware that they could push somebody and kill them and them not get back up again. And that was very obvious if you've ever listened to the Bold to Killer tapes. The one, and I can't remember which one it was because it was years ago. The one, it was very obvious just from those tapes, before I even looked into the information with regards to social services being hounded by the schools, that the child had been in a home where domestic violence was prevalent. And as it transpired, the mum was routinely beaten by the dad, and the mum learned to stay down until it was safe and then get up, right? And what he was a child. It was 9 and 10-year-old children being convicted. The child was saying he wouldn't just stay down. He kept getting back up again. Like, why didn't he just stay down? And because he kept getting back up again, I mean, the stuff they did to him was absolutely horrific, right? Genuinely terrible things. Like, I mean, I just I don't even urge you to go and find out what that poor child went through, right? So again, I'm not excusing it, but they don't have the same understanding. And at that age, I would argue being brought up in those very violent homes, witnessing unspeakable things, because you don't do things, you don't recreate things unless you've seen them, right? So this is that nobody was asking these questions. Where did the children learn to do this? And they just said, oh, it was the computer game. Oh, they said it was the TV, didn't they? Oh, they learned it because they watched it on the telly. Well, they shouldn't have been watching the telly. And trust me, they've seen shit like that, which is why they did it. And every time, for the one child, the mum still got back up again. So what a child believes is that if this has happened, this same thing will occur, right? So you would be very hard pushed to convince me that those children actually, at the time, realized that like dead doesn't come back dead, because the mum always got back up, right? So we have to make sure we are taking those things into account. And I know we were supposed to be talking about the good stuff. My apologies. But we were talking about the pre-FC. That's why. My apologies. Okay, so going back to quick fixes, we always want stuff to happen now. And you know, for people who've been like with concrete boots watching this fucking slow car crash, and still having family members who still believe the Rona jab was the right thing to do, it is really slow going. So what we need to start doing is training our brains for patience. So if you have a habit of doom scrolling, and I really like this phrase, I don't normally like kind of like buzz phrases, but I think this one is pretty darn accurate. So that's anytime you find yourself just like mindlessly scrolling on social media, like that is an indication you should probably do something else to make yourself feel good. Right? Because you're just like zombing out and monging out. So instead of that, then you have to do it for like, so if you would like normally, I mean, I've done it. I've done it. I'm going to do this too, right? Because remember last week, I pride myself on not being a hypocrite. So even if you set yourself a no doom scrolling like hour, and in that hour you plan in things that are beneficial for you, right? So are you going to go and sit in the garden and eat your lunch like I attempted to today? But there is some, I don't know, I must smell good to wasps. Like I'm like a wasp magnet, because as soon as I sit down, and we've got like 2 of those like hangy pretend wasp like houses, what are they called, nests, are they nests? Wasps, yeah, wasps nests that is supposed to like stop wasps coming. Like I was out, I was putting the washing on the line. Oh shit, I need to go get the washing in. So put the washing on the line this morning because the sun was out. And I was like, well, that's okay. It's really nice. It's warm. I'll sit out with the dog. I'll eat my lunch. There's no wasps in sight, right? I'm out there for about 15 minutes doing the washing, cleaning up the dog shit off the lawn, like all of those things. I'm out there for about half an hour. No wasps, nothing. Get my dinner. And it wasn't like wasp friendly dinner, but there wasn't like, I wasn't eating like flowers and pollen. It was like chicken and sausages, and shitloads of mayonnaise. And as soon as I like literally I sat down, and then I put my knife and fork in, and there was a fucking wasp in my face. And I was just like, are you kidding me? And they just, I'm getting better at being like, no, thank you. I'm fine. But I like blow up like a freaking balloon So, and I know that because as a child, I was a retard as a child. There was like 2, I don't know why, I don't know how, but there was like 2 wasps and I went like that, and then freaking like I got stung on both hands and my hands just went like imploded, like almost instantly. So it's I know that they if I get stung, it's not going to be pretty, and so I'm getting better. Like, Matt, you just like fucking sit there, and it's like on his head, and I'm like, it's on his head, and he's like, well, it's not going to sting me, and I was like, oh, they're evil little fuckers. But they just make a beeline for me. So I tried today to sit in the garden, get some sunshine, you know, some fake sunshine. So do something. Pick some time. And maybe don't pick like I'm going to do it between 3 and 4, right? Pick a specific thing that you do that can be tied in with just chilling out and relaxing. And doing something that's going to be beneficial to retrain your mind for peace and stability rather than a little bit of a quick fix. If you're aiming to achieve something, I mean, I'm aiming to achieve lots of things. This is a really handy tip, and I do this all the time. Break your goals down into like genuinely teeny tiny steps. Like literally, and this is how you like get loads. Oh my gosh, I make such a mess of my life. So this is my like today's jobs list. Can you see that? This is like my today's jobs list, and I've literally broken it down into like 1, 2, 3, like because I've got to sort my blog posts out in the Happiness Hacks Lab. I've kind of like half got blog 1 in there, and now I'm up to like I need to get them in there. And I've done 1, 2, 3, and really you should like you break it down even more, right? If you're struggling to get shit done, break it down into the teeny tiny little micro tasks, and then celebrate after every little teeny tiny task is done. Like, you know, you can have 5 minutes of, I don't know, biscuit, whatever you do to celebrate. I mean, singing, dancing, laughing, that kind of stuff is going to be best for you. But, you know, if there's something that you really like, so for me, it's like cake. I can have the cake once I've done the thing, right? So be your own accountability partner, right? You shouldn't need somebody else to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. It's got to be you. You've got to drive your own success because it's not up to somebody else whether you succeed or fail. It's only up to you. And this is how you can train yourself for success. So break it down. And this builds really strong neural pathways for persistence, right? Because you are moving you're keeping moving forward on a teeny tiny little thing, and eventually the big thing will pay off. So what we want, like the big thing done, and what happens when we don't break it down into little teeny tiny chunks, we probably took like massive action on the thing that we needed to achieve, but we never celebrated the teeny tiny little parts. And then we get to the end of the day and that one giant thing on the to-do list is still not ticked off. So break it down, and by the end of the day you get like loads of things ticked off. Like I signed loads of stuff off today, and it looks like if for this like M&M prep, so it's this prep, like literally thumbnail, like just that's like going into Canva and changing number 25 to 26 was a specific thing, right? It's that important. So I already do this. I don't do it as in minute detail as I can for everything. But if there's something that you really want to do and achieve, and you are feeling demotivated and demoralized, and then that's leading to procrastination and overwhelm, just like grab it and find the teeny tiny little chunks. And I generally don't advise doing it in a list format, because that's not as helpful and is always more overwhelming. I've showed you before, I normally do it in kind of like, what they're called. Some people call them like mind map spider diagram style. But I was in a list mood today. But yeah, if lists just like overwhelm you, do it in like a spider diagram, and that's usually easier to brain dump. If you already know what all the steps are, then a list is handy. But if you don't even know what all the teeny tiny micro steps are, then you want to kind of mind map it and follow it back out, and just work your way in. And the other thing you can do is like so one of the things that I always advise my clients to do is take a snap of you every time you've done it. Right? If you've ticked that one thing off, like take a selfie, but like I've done it, and then you can like, if you like have it on a wall, you can just like print the pictures out, and you can start, and that's really powerful because then you see yourself when you're looking at your wall, you're actually surrounded by lots of images of yourself achieving. Like that's super powerful on your subconscious. As extra tips, right? So also do set realistic expectations, right? And this is really important with regards to like time scales. If you've got like this big thing to do, and I'm terrible at this, right? So I always like, that was like, actually like the reality of this is like a month's worth of work, and it's all like with today's date. I'm like, oh yeah, this is like, I can do this and this. No, I can't. Like literally, I know how long each of these things take, and there's no way I would have ever achieved that today. I don't have a clone, like ever. And it's not because I wasn't working. So here's the thing, right? If you don't set realistic timescales and you're not a happy person, and what I mean by that is that you've got like, you've got shit from your past kind of like weighing you down, you've got like really unhelpful family members weighing you down, whatever's going on. If you're not setting realistic timescales, or you're not sure how long things take, that is going to cause you like serious mind fuckery. So in the beginning, when you're not sure how long things take, definitely don't do it in a list. Definitely don't put like today's date on it. Just do the task. Do it in a mind map. Like spread eagle it out, and then celebrate every single one. And as you're doing it, just time it. Like don't time it with the pressure. So don't have like a countdown timer. Just put a timer on, like you can just like, how long is this going to take me? And then once it's done, just make a note of how long it took, right? So I know it will take me 20 minutes per email, because there's quite a bit that goes into the back end of the email. And I listed out 19 emails. I also had like 8 blogs. They're about 40 minutes each because I have to get the embed codes for the podcast, blah, 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 all of that bullshit. So they're about 40 minutes each. Then like all the stuff I did this morning, like that I actually achieved, took me right up until 4 o'clock. And then I had this to deal with, right? So that was just never going to happen. But I knew that, and I wasn't doing that with the intention of doing it all today, because I usually just write a list and then close the book, right? That's how I'm like, fuck it. I'll figure it out tomorrow, right? But if you can't do that, don't write a list ever. Just go round in circles. But then make sure you celebrate, make sure you know how long things take you. And this is going to help you massively, right? Because once you start to understand how long things take you, even really simple tasks, you're then going to have more appreciation for other people who you perhaps think aren't doing anything. And so maybe you're like, somebody says to you, oh, I'm going to do this XYZ thing, and then you're following them, and maybe you're kind of like mates with them, and they're like, they still haven't done that thing. Well, maybe they are doing it. Like maybe they're like working really hard to do it. But also, if you are a person, you also have to eat, you have to pee, you have to sleep, you have to, if you have a partner, you do have to pay them attention sometimes. If you're me, you have to walk the dogs, and you have to, like, Bruno's in a freaking sling now. Oh my gosh, Like, he's got an American bulldog, and I have to, like, carry him. Well, I can't carry him completely. Obviously, he still has to kind of semi-use his legs. Literally, like, going on this, like, I can only do 10 minutes with him, and I'm always broken by the time I get back. Like, every 2 minutes, I'm, like, swapping sides. I'm gonna be, like, built like Hulk. Because he's, like, what is he, 43 kilos? Like, he's not like a fucking chihuahua I'm carrying around. But he can't go up in the we do have a garden, but it's like up steps. He can't do the steps, so we have to take him. I call it the village. It's not a village. It's like a teeny tiny little housing estate. So to take him around the village, and he can't poo by himself. You have to like hold him while he's pooing, otherwise he'll fall over. And he just determined. He's a stubborn little shit. Right. So then I know how long all of these things take, is what I'm trying to say. So make sure whatever it is you're aiming to achieve, right? And if you don't have any goals right now, find one, right? Because if you don't have anything to aim for, you will just stagnate. Even maybe you go buy that book. I'm going to go buy that book, and maybe you go buy that book, or you have a book that you've already bought, or maybe there's a hobby you want to try, whatever it is, right? You have to find something to do, and then make a plan, and then go after it, right? Because this is going to help teach you patience, and that's going to stop you getting stressed out when shit's not happening in the outside world, right? Because it's not going to be like, I still stand by. We have another 20 odd years before things are any kind of semblance of a world in which this is a nice place to live, by which I'll be in my 60s. Remember, it's the corruption in every single portion of society. It's not just like there's 3 people and you can go and arrest those 3 people. And we in the United Kingdom, we will have to completely shred like the laws, right? We have to completely dissolve the way that the country is being run, and figure out how to do it in a way and embed things that are going to protect against future corruption. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight. This is why I think it's really important we move beyond dopamine and we go for sustained fulfillment. Jigsaws. Start doing it. I love jigsaws. Okay. So if, like me, you're very stressed out by the bullshit, this is going to be something that's very beneficial for us. Try and find something that you can do that's a long-term something, right? So like I said, like literally a jigsaw, like that's a long-term something, and you're gonna have to force yourself. So this is where it gets difficult for me personally. You're gonna have to force yourself to only do it for a set amount of time each day, right? Because you won't be training your brain for long-term gratification, and if you kind of like get the jigsaw and you do the entire thing that day. So, and I'm not, again, like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I don't, it doesn't matter. Make sure it's something that's enjoyable, right? Like, and if you've got like big, audacious, ambitious goals, make sure it's something that's useful. Maybe you decide, I'm going to learn. I'm going to go on to legislation.gov and I'm going to learn 1 law a week. Maybe that's it. I would love to do that. I do not have the capacity or the time or the energy to do that. I would love to do that because I would love to then be able to educate you guys on it. As my brain's trying to figure out, can I? No, this is my brain's like, oh, well, maybe you could. Maybe you could do like, we could do like a law corner. I don't, I can't, not right now. Maybe we can start law corner from 2026. Do law corner. I don't know. Well, somebody will probably remind me in January. They're, are we doing law corner? We're like, oh fuck, I'd forgotten. I haven't. Or somebody else. Maybe somebody can start a law corner podcast and we can just tune in, right? We can tune in. But not a lawyer, not a non-lawyer, right? It needs to be a layperson. So why would that need to be a layperson? Is because we have not been trained to think in the same way, right? So this is why my brain goes to, oh, maybe we could use it in this way, is because I haven't been trained to think this is what this law's for. It'd be like, oh, this is the law. Oh, that's an interesting one. Maybe we're going to use it in this way. Because my brain does those things. But your brain will too, because you're a normal person. It's people who don't usually work in those industries tend to be the ones that apply their own knowledge of the things that they've dealt with to those things. And that's how you end up with like crazy ass solutions that nobody in the industry has thought of, is because they're all industry trained. So on that last little bombshell, thank you very much for joining. Hopefully you've learned something new. I know it hasn't been as in-depth as last week. I just quite exhausted after last week, to be fair, and very fucking hungry after last week's session. So if you spot anything, I actually genuinely wanted to do, I wanted to talk about, I wasn't going to talk about Palestine at all, but then obviously they fucking did it yesterday. I wanted to talk about Clones because that's the show that I'm watching from tour, and I was having like all these kind of like brain ideas and extra kind of, but I haven't finished it yet. And I do feel really sorry for the, I feel the same way about the clone people as I do about the MK Ultra people, and you know, scopolamine people, who then find out, like, so I mean, so the clone people, to find out that you're a copy, like that's like, imagine finding out you're just a backup, right? That, like, I don't even know how to, like, that must be extremely difficult to process, right? Because you probably don't know yet, right? And then, you know, we do have to have compassion, because imagine, you know, if somebody rocked up to me and said, by the way, you might seem really nice during the day, but actually you're going out and doing like all of these horrific stuff, but then it's been programmed into you. It's like, who is that really you? Like we need to start really thinking about these things, because I'm on the side of, I don't think we should be treating individuals. I think we need to step outside of humans and emotion and focus on brain-based competence. I think that's the only way forward to do any of the justice in a way that's fair and blind, right? That's fair. Like we have to start thinking about what we want society to look like. And we all want this fairer society, but I don't see anybody kind of talking about what that actually means. So something to think about. So thank you very much for joining. I shall see you same time next week. Have an amazing week, and hopefully no more fucking craziness, but who knows? It's 2020.